Folks, it's almost 10 o'clock, Chad. Darn
We're,
close.
we're awful close.
Anyway, we got a new thing going on here. We're going to try to do for Chad. Just learned all this morning for a few weeks, but it may not always be on Thursday because of fishing schedule. We may have to change it. But
Right.
uh, news and notes out of the city of Rogersville, and I got a lot of topics, man.
I can see that.
I always got a lot of topics,
You
right?
do. You do.
And just how to address them is where we're at. But we're going to try to do a show till we run out of stuff to talk about. So
That probably won't ever happen.
it probably um, definitely probably will not happen with social media being out there. Uh, I just hit the end string button and let's see, trying to get it off there. Hopefully it doesn't end stream. It's gonna stay there. Well, we got 2 viewers now, so we're doing good, man. I expect most people will watch this when they're at home in the evening, can't sleep. They want to get up and listen to two great guys.
Absolutely riveting conversation.
Yeah. So anyway, I got two really topics today to see what we get into. Actually, I got a whole page of topics, but I want to talk about the Planning and Zoning Board, and then if we have time, let's get into the sewer treatment plant. And a lot of this stuff is based on uh, things I read on social media, and I don't read them all because you can't read them all, and you're never going to make that person happy that's on there for the most part. But I'd like to educate the citizens of town about due process and what happens. Um, so the city is ran by, I don't know what that was, but
an elected board of aldermen.
Well, yeah, they're run by a elected board of aldermen, and then they are governed by ordinances and codes.
Correct.
And part of those codes, tell us how the planning and zoning board is established in those codes.
The planning and zoning board is appointed by the mayor. Current mayor usually goes to the board and brings those people in that get appointed and lets the board visit with them and tries to gain their approval, but he holds the power to appoint.
And how many people are appointed to this board?
There can be a total of 9. We have 7 right now.
And that includes could include one city councilman and the mayor.
Right.
In that board. And so once you get elected, you get on this board and then you follow what's established in those codes or ordinances or both.
when you're on a planning and zoning board, you primarily live in the section 400 of our code. That is zoning and the planning of the city.
And so Tuesday night, huge topic on Facebook, huge topic at the city. It applied for a special use permit, or what was
a conditional use
permit. And so how does one come about to apply for that? So the owner comes in and files out the paperwork?
Right. Well, and first of all, we have to know exactly what it is they're wanting to do. There are certain uses as the planning and zoning board or myself, when somebody comes in and says, hey, I want to build this on the commercial property, we go to that section in commercial in the book and determine if it is a permitted use. If it's a permitted use, then it can be built there without any special conditions. If it is a commercial use, but it's not a permitted use, then it can go to a conditional use of that property, which planning and zoning will review that. And they have a series of questions in the conditional use section that they have to meet. And it can adversely impact property value, can't cause undue stress on current existing infrastructure, questions like that. If they cannot answer those, then they cannot pass or permit a special use or conditional use.
So then that gets posted. It comes before the committee, planning and zoning board. And then those folks make a recommendation to city council.
They on conditional uses, they are the ones that make the decision. Planning and zoning makes the decision unless it's contested within a 15.
Both shut off. Trying to get the frog out of my throat. So and that's pretty much what happened. It went to the conditional use permit. It was posted, and then it went through the process. And I think the process really worked.
It did
the way it's supposed to work. You had about 24 people come speak.
Probably. And we had 24 people in the room. Probably had 10 speak.
All right. And so, if you live on Facebook world, and I'm about to get this frog out of my throat here in a minute.
Too much time on the water.
I
You brought something
guess.
back with you.
But trying to get my voice going here. So stand by. Hey, no, not back yet. Maybe some water. Now the camera's going to mess up there, but I'll get this question out, then you can answer while I mess with the camera. So, I forgot where I was even going to go now, but so they brought that in, and if you leave on Facebook that we don't have any, you know, any, we're just doing whatever we want.
No checks and balances. No.
Yeah, but there is checks and balances, and try to describe how those and how that works. I mean, we've touched on it, but the codes define. You're just not doing what Chad Bybee wants, right? I mean, or Rich Sturts or Jack Cole. I mean, there is a set of rules that we all do play by.
Right. And it just, I guess understanding the code. Our code book's 3 inches thick, and it goes all the way from nuisance ordinances to building code. So there is a lot of information in the book, and it's navigating the process. Like when you looked at this particular instance, it was the number of days and what they were trying to do that was the issue that prohibited them from being a permitted use, and required a special hearing to determine if it was going to impact anybody, or if any special accommodations need to be made, such as living fences, trying to block view from the business to the residential. So it has a purpose, and anything that is a permitted use in there is not truly really an eyesore per se.
Yeah.
But when you start getting into things that could be an eyesore or cause an issue for adjacent property owners, then that kicks it off to the conditional use, to where a group or a board that's established can reasonably weigh through the issues that could come about from it, and make a determination. And even they can't make a determination based on that's how I feel. There are, I believe in conditional use, there are, and it's the same way with the variance. There are 6 questions, I believe, in conditional uses that they have to answer, and it has to meet.
Well, we hear all the time. I say we, me and you read some of it. There's no plan, but there is a plan. That board works on a comprehensive plan.
Correct.
And they try to do what's out there. There's a zoning map.
Correct.
That we have. And so there is a plan. There is stuff that we have done. Now, do I expect 50% of the people agree with it? I would hope, but I mean, in today's ability to comment and carry on, I think, and I'm as guilty as anybody. If you watch me watch a sports, I'm always on the referees. And so, but there is a plan. There is a board that works on a comprehensive plan, and they have been many things in there.
Right.
One of the comments that what I seen was about nepotism. I don't know what they're talking about or where that comes from. On the board, I will tell you, in a town smaller than ours, my father and my brother are both elected to the city council. They're half of the city council, the Sturts family. And so there's no really rules that defines an election, who's on there. How do you handle that in a you guys try to tread water if if you're related to somebody on a board, one of those boards?
Right. Well, I mean, especially if we look to hire somebody, we look at, do you have what is your blood relation? Because there is a statute that addresses that. What is your blood relation to the individual?
But that statute says you can hire them, that the person that's on there just can't vote for them in any way for pay raises for them or disciplinary action.
They have to use the Robert's Rules of Order abstain option.
And the Robert Rules of Orders are not a lot of times followed, but there is stuff in place to present all that.
Right. And oftentimes, I mean, I don't think if any board I've ever been a part of, if somebody's ever made a vote and been corrected on it, it's never been out of ill intent. It's always been of maybe lack of understanding of Robert's Rule and what the appropriate process was. But as far as nepotism, I saw that comment as well. I can't speak predating to me, but there's been no nepotism at the city in my term.
And there's a lot of comments, and maybe we shouldn't address them, but you know me, I'm not looking to pick a fight, but I want to address some of that because the general public, for the most part, don't take time to come, and I think we ought to address some of that.
Right.
The other comment was is taking somebody out to eat, and I don't know what that comment was, and again, I think it's people just being people, and do you know what it was about?
I do.
And we don't have to talk about it, but
I do. Again, a situation that predated me. A person in my position before me. There was a instance where there was a meal brought in to discuss a fairly controversial issue.
Yeah.
In my personal beliefs, do I believe that it should have been done? Probably not.
Well, that's what we all have to,
because it gives a bad opinion to the public.
If you don't want to read about a negative way in your paper. Right. And so that's what I've always been in my career here at the fire district is try to have that best face forward.
Right.
And sometimes in the city that has not occurred, but we all have to be very careful of that because that tarnishes our image forever.
Right.
And I fought that here at the fire district forever. Things people did in the 80s, I can't change.
Right.
You can't change. And so I hate to hear that. I mean, I don't think there's a thing wrong going to have lunch with somebody.
Right.
You buy your own lunch and listen to what his ideas are. I mean, that's part of the process, right?
Right. Well, and you and I are both human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do things that in privately would be no problem. And oftentimes people see it that way and they don't think about it. And I don't think there's any ill intent behind it again, but it's so easy in roles like you and I have to do something and there be no agenda whatsoever. And so we have to be extra cautious. We have to think about those things. How is this viewed from the outside?
That's exactly right. And then, again, I just get tired of seeing a lot of the comments out there, about about getting in and out of town on the highway. That plan that was made, and it's not perfect, but it did the Highway 60 interchanges, before we had the stoplights, as I mentioned. Right. And I know of at least 2 people killed ever since I was fire chief. One of them was during construction, and then we always had numerous wrecks at 253, and many, many people died at that intersection. And then we had the intersection of Business 60 on up at the other end. Is that intersection perfect, and could we do things to improve upon? I think we could, but that award, that didn't win a national award for that design. Right. And have you ever been to San Antonio or down to Dallas on 39 down through there?
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I try to stay out of Texas.
Oh, wow. Well, as you're going through there, every intersection is like that. You get off here to get to the next intersection. And I think signage is the key to that.
It is.
And yeah, it's a tricky interchange because you got the exit ramp onto the bridge, and then you got the exit ramp to come down to Marshall Street or Farm Road 253.
Well, but I think the history behind that is that ramp was a part of the original design.
Yeah, that's correct.
However, that bridge was not.
Yeah.
That bridge was added later on in the process.
Because that's what the people of the town wanted.
Right. And it's nice to have it there. It's a good addition, but its location where it sits in response or regards to that ramp makes that ramp very difficult to catch. I mean, I live here and I miss it.
Yeah. And I don't disagree that it's hard to catch, but we can signage that. But
that question's been asked before with MoDOT. Can we add additional signage? Would you add additional signage, something to help make that more visible? And, and I haven't seen any new signs.
Yeah, that's the problem is getting them but as you drive down between Dallas and San Antonio, for sure, every one of those, I have to go down to the second one and make my way all the way back to the hotel we were staying at because those are tricky. But those designs are all over the place, and it, I know they've been a thing talked about a short ramp, but it's just to exit. But you got to have
a ramp.
have to have an exit lane and all this, which adds cost to the whole ordeal. Anyhow, this is a lot of stuff that I've seen. So we had did you all hear you had a special use, or what was the sign ordering you guys discussed? I measured the sign at Underwoods, and so supposedly, as far as we know, I know this is another hot topic out there. Hardee's has been sold. Come and Go's coming to town. And I'm not asking you to deny or confirm it, but they've sent a few requests in, right?
They have sent requests in. I do know that the current owner is working with Come and Go on these because he's still the owner. I mean, we require that he signs off on some stuff in order to give permission, kind of like a trust per se.
Yeah.
A person on the trust may not be the person that can make the decisions for the trust, and we need documentation that is actually the person that can make those decisions. And we know him to be the owner, so we've required him to sign off on some of the stuff that they've asked for. But our current commercial freestanding sign has a maximum height of 35 feet, or as determined by the Planning and Zoning Commission. And so the request was that they could be above 35 feet. Well, you measured that sign with your rangefinder, which, by the way, works pretty good for about measuring anything.
For the record, I didn't think it would work, and I fought it, and we're going to get the ladder truck out, but it did work.
But it did work, and I went and just confirmed that with Tom that he thought it was that height, and it was, and so they asked for what we would allow their height to go to, and we felt it was as fair to current business and people who've been a part of our community for a long time that sign not exceed the current sign that is there with the Shell and McDonald's, and that turned out to be 85 feet to the base of the sign. So they approved 85 feet to the base of the sign for any future building that may go there.
Well, I think I think there's been quite a bit of controversy on social media about Hardee's going or not going, and for some time, we've seen documents that it was going, and I think it's important for us to help with rumor control with what we can release without pending deals or anything. But as far as it looks to me and what I've seen, Hardee's is going to be torn down. A new Come and Go's going in there, and we'll see the timeline. We don't know the timeline for sure, but
that does appear to be what's going to happen. And, people need to understand what happens privately between two property owners is not the city's issue, but what develops from there on then falls into our code.
But we do know as we get requests, I mean, most of those requests are discoverable. They can sunshine law request as you get things. So we're not trying to keep secret. And I guess for this session, the last big social media thing that's been there for a while that drives me crazy is our treatment plant. That we're flushing raw sewage out into the creek.
I mean, that's what I've heard.
And back in the day, I mean, it's been a while. When we upgraded that treatment plant, we built it super big to hold a lot of sewage because we were right at maximum. And I don't know, maybe how long ago that new plant was done? 20 years, 15 years ago?
It's been around 15 years ago, and that's the one thing I want everybody to understand. I tried to make a comment and give some good information out there is that if that were in fact the case, that we were over capacity, we answer to the Department of Natural Resources. If we were over capacity, the Department of Natural Resources would put a moratorium on the city of Rogersville building. We could not allow any more building because we were over capacity until we resolved that problem.
So you got to send, as you add a subdivision, you got to send in the planning deal, right?
Yes. We have an Excel spreadsheet that we keep track of all additions and potential additions to the sewage treatment plant.
So they can't move forward until DNR approves that plan.
Correct.
Yeah. The other thing before we get off planning and zoning, I think is important. Let me go back to page 2 of all my notes here.
And while you're looking for that, I can give you some specifics. Our treatment plant is a 960,000 gallon plant. We are currently sitting at a little under 500,000. So we're about 50%.
50%.
Capacity.
So we have lots of room to grow.
Plenty of room. We
just need to put lines in the ground to make that go faster.
That is correct. The more lines we put, the more we hook on, the faster that goes, though. So, I mean, I'm going to say in just a hypothetical here, in the next 5 years, we'll probably have to do something to the treatment plant at the rate we're growing now.
Yeah. And so, again, we got about 10 minutes left here in this session. I'm going to go back to the planning board. So I come in, I want to build a subdivision. So they submit that, hey, Chad, I want to do this. You look at it, I look at it, Michael looks at it, but we're not the only ones who look at it. It goes before a city engineer, right? And he reviews the plans. We have a city engineer on staff that don't take their word for it. He checks every nook and crack, correct?
Correct. We have design standards. We have building. We have parameters adopted that we look at. We also look at the code to make sure that, you know, the amount of right of ways there, the amount of easements there that we require, and that's submitted on a preliminary plat to our building department and our engineer. And you look at it as well, as far as streets, things like that, addressing later on. And it goes through a review process where it may be sent back one time. It may be sent back multiple times.
I've never seen one go through one time.
No, no, it usually does not happen.
And so then once they get that all ironed out, it goes to the P&Z board to approve a preliminary plat.
Which, when P&Z board sees it, everything has been met per the code that we have.
And then they typically, it's okayed because there's several steps before it gets to them.
Right.
And then the final plat is done once all the infrastructure is done.
Correct.
And unless they bond themselves, they can't build until the final infrastructure is done.
Which we removed out of the code.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, it cannot be bonded anymore unless a variance is asked for.
So
again, it tightened it down to where a board has to look at it and determine if that is reasonable or
feasible.
Rather than it just being, this is an option that you can do because it says so. It made it more difficult on developers, but it made it better for the citizens in the long run.
And I guess the last thing, the Board of Adjustments. How do they get involved in the Board of Adjustments, or is that what they're called?
It is the Board of Adjustments, or some people you'll hear me refer to it as a variance board. If somebody wants a deviation from the code, let's say lot size, our standard lot size in most locations in the city is 10,000 square feet. If you don't have that, then a home can't be built on it unless a variance is asked for. And that has happened. And the variance board will look at it on a case-by-case basis and look at the surrounding area and determine if it is matching current buildings there, current lot sizes. They have approved, they have disapproved.
And how many people are on that variance board?
Oh my God. We meet, let's see, we got one. There's 5 on there at the time.
They don't meet a lot.
No, they only meet when a application is submitted.
Well, that's kind of a rundown of social media and real business in the city and where we're coming and going. And I think probably most people, this is a boring topic, but I think it's an important topic because it does get discussed a lot, and we should address that to our best of our knowledge and try to answer reasonable questions and whatnot that is out there. Let's talk about a few of in this last little segment here. Let's talk about new businesses and things that are going on. So Godfather's came to town, right? And so they're booming over there. The other pizza place, what was their name? I forgot. Rocco's left because of staffing in their normal store is what I heard. Did you hear any of that?
That was the reason we received from them, that they were having trouble maintaining staff in their brick and mortar building in another location. And so they were taking the staff they were using here to try to fill that void.
And what's Godfather's? Have you heard any feedback from him? I mean, is there any plans that he may go in a brick and mortar store here? Or?
I mean, I know he would like to have one, just the availability of one. I think, like most food trucks, are kind of testing the water to see how well business will be here. And when I've been by there or been there, they've had plenty of business. Of course, Godfather Pizza is pretty good. So
yeah, I hear that. Performance Tire sold before the end of the year a while back, actually, but I've seen a few comments on that. It's called Wildcat Service now or something like that. Guy from Nixa, they have a shop there, I believe. I met with those folks because we do some business there. Gene got out of the business and they moved into town.
Yeah, we've got a couple of our longtime service centers that have changed hands here.
Yeah, Blunt's
a little bit.
Blunt's have sold, and it's now called what? RJ's.
I'd have to look at the business license.
Yeah, I don't
but
remember.
yes.
It's called RJ Service, but Jim Blunt has been in service here. Man, I can't tell you how long. Long time since I can remember back, and I think just aged out. Ready for retirement and get out of the service, and so we should see a change in some of that.
I noticed the signage has changed, and I mean, I think that's everybody's ultimate goal, isn't it? Be able to do well in life and be able to enjoy the end of it.
Yeah, I think so. Have you heard anything from the new place down there at Industrial? I can't think of the name of the store. The new store there,
the American Made.
American Made. Have you heard much from the owners there? Or anything?
I've talked to him a little bit here and there, doing some business with him, but haven't heard anything negative. That he's struggling or anything. Every time I drive by there, he seems to have quite a few cars in the parking lot. I know, as far as building components, he seems to be very reasonable and has some very unique products in there that I know everybody loves the ice cream. But as far as I know, at this point, he seems to be doing pretty well.
Erling must not have figured out the ice cream thing. I ain't been down there yet.
Well, she needs to.
Yeah.
Because it's good.
What I'm trying to think. What else is out there? You think of anything else that?
I mean, I guess one that I saw on your list there that impacted citizens recently was the water leak over the weekend. Was that Christmas weekend or New Year's weekend?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a photo of that pipe and we'll come in and put it on the screen. And it looks like we're gonna blink at us again. Me and this camera's got to get fixed around here. I go back to you, and so yeah, I think we'll add that maybe next show. But those, you guys worked over the weekend, and I got that. Zach was showing me the pipe and the big break in that pipe.
Yeah, and I have it here. Don't know if it'll do you any good, but yes, it was.
We'll add it to the schedule next week.
A significant break, and one that caused some of our citizens some issues with low water pressure. And
have you heard any other businesses coming to town or anything that we can release? I mean, what's out there? And
I would say nothing that's worth putting out there at this point.
We'll just start rumors. I mean, we don't want to do that. We did X here off 125. Is it 10 acres or?
Not
oh
quite.
No, it's a little bigger than that. I think it's almost 14 acres.
Okay.
And the church is going to be built down there. Church 1, I think, is the thing.
Right.
And they did annex that into the city and added that to the structure of all that. So anyway, folks, we're about out of time here, 27 minutes, and I appreciate Chad coming in, and a lot of things to come as we get going and talk about the city. And I think we'll see what we can do. I mean, it's been a while since me and you've been on, but it's hard. I just don't want to get on here and ramble about nothing. And so there's several topics we can talk about here, and the growth is coming. Keep your eyes wide open. I think we're going to grow, even though the economy is struggling with 7% inflation and things.
One thing we probably ought to add is obviously we have an upcoming election.
And I got the election on there to talk about next time.
I didn't know if we wanted to, at least the candidates,
we'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll add it on the next. That's on the list. Is we'll get into the nuts and bolts of all that.
Got a detailed list for everybody.
I do have a detailed list. There's a new subdivision that was at planning and zoning. We'll talk about. And so anyway, we're going to get off here. And I know we've rambled on for almost 30 minutes, but thanks, Chad. And we'll see you all next week. And we'll talk about the election, a new subdivision coming, and try to catch us up on all the other subdivision and construction going on in town. And probably the election is the biggest news and notes that we'll have next week, and figure out where we're at. Hope you enjoyed the show, and maybe soon we're going to have a call-in segment. I'm working on my technology. You can call in. We're not going to get in a huge discussion, but if you got fight, or whatever, but if you got a legitimate question, we may get to. The daytime audience is pretty tough, but shoot me an email, shoot me a text, messenger, whatever. If you got something you want us to talk about, we'd be glad to look at it and talk a little more about it. Thanks a lot for watching K-ROG Wildcat Radio and TV, RichTV. Chad, Bebee out.